Whilst we have seen the army rule for the new Aeldari with their brilliant battle focus ability to really let them zip around the board with some truly incredible speed, not to mention prevent enemy overwatch, and also a lot of other sneaky ways to get where they need to be thanks to their agile maneuvers, the codex does of course come with some detachments, and there is a full 8 in the new Aeldari codex, and I'll be honest, on the face of it, all of them are at least somewhat playable, good, and more importantly, fun. And it really does look like you are going to be able to play the exact style and makeup of army that you want, whatever that may be, and you will have a good set of rules and abilities and buffs to empower it and make it even more impactful, no matter what units from the codex you do want to play with. And so for the next set of videos for the Aeldari, I wanted to focus on their detachments, and first up I wanted to focus on one which I am personally a big fan of, because as I've mentioned, I am a huge sucker for the aspect units. I just love them in their entirety, so playing an army focused all around them and getting the most out of them really does appeal to me. And so with that in mind, we are going to have a look through the Aspect Host Detachment today and see what rules, enhancements, and stratagems you can utilize in it to help your really elite warriors. Now, the Aspect Host, of course, is going to be the biggest benefit to your Aspect Warriors, your Phoenix Lords, and also your Avatar, who does tend to go hand in hand with the Aspect Focus. And the Path of the Warrior rule comes with this detachment, and it lets you bring even more reliability when you are fighting with those units. This rule allows you to pick whenever an Aspect Warrior unit or an Avatar unit is chosen to shoot or fight to get either reroll hit rolls of 1 or reroll wound rolls of 1. Now, they can be argued to be two sides of the same coin in terms of overall effectiveness, but it is a very strong buff. A lot of your aspect units will be hitting on 2, so getting those rerolls to 1 to hit will make some of your units essentially 98% accurate, so almost never missing a swing, whilst on some of your stronger units, that reroll wound rolls of 1 could really help you push through just that bit of extra damage and kill off that scary unit that you need to. I think in general, the hit rerolls are the fairly safe bet and the one that I would tend to fall back on, but as this is done, whenever a unit is chosen to shoot or fight, it's not just done at the start of the game for the entire battle or something, so you really can tailor this to each situation and get the absolute best choice depending on the target you are fighting. You might want to go for something different depending on whether you're fighting, a squad of guardsmen compared to a tank or something, so it is very strong, it's very flexible, and it's also a very fluffy rule, I think. It really will make your aspects and your avatar feel like these true forces of combat ability and prowess and strength, which they are meant to be. The Phoenix Lords do of course get the Aspect Warrior keyword as well, so they do benefit from this, and as keywords carry across, this will also give the bonus to an Autarch that you may join to an Aspect squad, because they can also do that now. So I do think that primarily an army using this detachment is going to be made up of an Avatar and then just a load of Aspect units with Autarchs and your Phoenix Lords leading them. I mean, you can bring some Guardians or other utility pieces for some additional scoring or mobility or transport if that's your thing, but I think one of the great things about the Aspect units is that they are so varied and unique and hyper-focused, you can quite easily get everything you need just from those datasheets. If you need mobility options to get around the board or for secondaries, you've got your Warp Spiders and your Swooping Hawks who are blisteringly fast. Melee is going to be covered by your Banshees and your Scorpions, whilst your long-ranged and anti-tank options can come from your Fire Dragons or your Dark Reapers, and you've even got a better than regular Guardian aspect option in the Dire Avengers themselves, so it really can be a very effective, self-contained little army without having to go too much further afield in the wider codex, which means of course you can absolutely make the most out of your detachment rule by having it impact almost all the units in your army, with nothing feeling like it's wasting that detachment ability. The detachment of course brings you 4 enhancements, which are fairly good, although I would say none of them are super stand out. Again, I'm using the points from the codex that we've got. That might be slightly wrong because the codex points are going to be a bit out of date and they will be updated, but I imagine they will probably be at least largely similar to what they are in the Codex. So the aspect of murder is up first. This one is put on an Autarch or Autarch Wayleaper, so a great unit to add into your aspect unit, and this gives them +1 damage to their melee weapons, as well as the precision rule. So if you, for instance, gave your Autarch a Banshee Blade, they would be up to damage 3. You could even keep them with their base weapon, which is the Starglaive, and that nets them 4 strength 6, -3 AP, 4 damage attacks, which could be devastatingly good into a lot of enemies, especially characters with that precision rule. Now this one is a whopping 30 points, so it is a big investment, don't get me wrong, but +1 damage is always a fantastic bonus. So if you've got an Autarch that you're going to be throwing into combat and you know that the enemy has some characters that you want to kill, it could be a very worthwhile addition. The Mantle of Wisdom is an even pricier 35 points. This is one of the most expensive enhancements I think we've seen in 10th edition so far, but this one is again put on an Autarch or a Wayleaper, and it grants them and their unit both benefits of the detachment rule whenever they shoot or fight. So you will be getting reroll hit rolls and wound rolls of 1 on a unit. And this can be unbelievably strong, making you super accurate and also much more reliable at pushing those wounds through. Certain aspects will absolutely love this. Banshees, for instance, will be hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, and then on their swords they've got anti-infantry 3+, so they'll be wounding infantry on 3s, rerolling 1s. And what that means is that a unit of 10, just with the Banshee Blades, can be getting about 15 wounds into a Marine profile, and with -2 AP and a flat 2 damage, that means that a unit of 10 Banshees will just flat out kill an entire 10-man Marine squad in one go, without even counting the Autarch's attacks. So it can make a unit terrifyingly good at what they do, and I think whether this goes on Banshees or Dark Reapers, anything like that, they are going to appreciate the increased output. I'd say about the only thing this unit isn't great on that you may join in Autarch 2 is the Fire Dragons, because they get full rerolls into vehicles and monsters anyway with their rule of assured destruction, and 99% of the time with your Fire Dragons, you are going to be firing into monsters or vehicles because that is their best target. So I would say this detachment rule and this enhancement are maybe a tiny bit wasted on them, but still it does make them much better when they are going into elite infantry or things like Custodes or Terminators, if that is the only target they have in front of them. The Shimmerstone is instead a more defensive option. For 15 points, this one nets you -1 to be wounded for the bearer and his unit against ranged attacks. This is again on an Autarch or Wayleaper, but it means even with your toughness 3 profiles, you will now be needing 4s to be wounded with bolters, and even the scarier strength 6 and above weapons that would normally wound you on 2s will now only be wounding you on 3s. So it is a definite way to help your unit get up the board and be more survivable as they get into position. And I think once again it would be great on a unit like Banshees as they are moving up the board. Even something like Dark Reapers that might be sitting back on an objective and just putting some long range firepower downrange, they are going to be a big target for your opponent and get a lot of fire thrown their way. So this could be a great way to just keep them alive all game long as they are putting out that ranged firepower to support the rest of your army. The final enhancement is the Strategic Savant, and this is the cheapest at 10 points. It gives the bearer, again an Autarch or a Wayleaper model, and his unit +1 OC. Now, it's kind of boring and a little bit lackluster, but +1 OC can be good. There are definitely times when you will wish you did have this, but for me, I think this would be my last pick. It's going to be one of those options where, because it's only 10 points, you will just fit it in if you've got 10 points spare, if you're at 1990 points and you've got nothing else you could do with those 10 points and you've got a free enhancement slot, you will probably just put this in just to give that little bonus to a particular unit. So it's not bad. I just think it's a bit unexciting and it's more of a last minute point filling tool in my opinion. The detachment also brings with it 6 stratagems, which are all very good actually, and do a huge amount to boost the overall power of your aspect units and this detachment in general. Warrior Focus is our first one. For 1 CP, this one allows you in your shooting or fight phase to pick an aspect warrior or avatar unit, and they get to ignore all modifiers to ballistic skill, weapon skill, strength, AP, or damage on their attacks. So anything that impacts those, whether it be a strength debuff or a reduced AP ability that your opponent has, or something like the Deathwing Knight's -1 to incoming damage, that just gets flat out ignored. And this is huge at making sure you get the absolute most out of your attacks. The Autarch that we mentioned earlier, with say the Aspect of Murder and the Starglaive, he is now going to be 4 damage into Deathwing Knights, and it won't be reduced down to 3, meaning each unsaved wound will kill a Deathwing Knight rather than just doing 3 damage to it. So this one I think is incredibly strong for 1 CP. It just adds so much extra reliability to your output, and I think this is a strat that you are going to be likely using every single turn against a key enemy target. You also get the 1 command point Doom Inescapable, which lets your avatar in your shooting phase go up to an 18-inch range on his Wailing Doom, which is already a nice boost from its base 12-inch range, but it also goes to a flat damage 8 instead of d6 plus 2, which is just crazy good. It is still only 1 shot, so it may not be super reliable, but remember, he does benefit from the detachment rule, so he could be hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s to hit, and he's also strength 16, so he's going to be wounding most things on 2s or 3s. So with that Aspect Host rerolls, you can make it a lot more reliable. And I think with a reroll hit roll of 1, the avatar has got around a 75% chance of getting an unsaved wound through on something like a Marine Gladiator tank. So you've essentially got a 75% chance with this from 18 inches away of just doing a flat 8 damage to an enemy tank. So if it's on 8 wounds left, you can pretty reliably kill it. And even if you don't, you can do a huge amount of damage into it, and that should make it much easier for the rest of your shooting to kill it off much more easily and reliably. To their final breath is a fight on death style stratagem. In the fight phase, an aspect or avatar unit can get this, and then if a model in that unit dies, you roll a dice, and on a 4+ or a 3+ if you choose to remove one of your new aspect shrine tokens that your aspect units have, then you get +1 to the roll, so it's on a 3+, and if you do that, if you make the dice roll, then that model can fight before it's removed. So the avatar will only ever get to do this on a 4+ because he's got none of those tokens, but things like your banshees or your scorpions could get a scary amount of damage back into an enemy before they are removed if you are in a combat against a particularly scary enemy unit. Next up we have Preternatural Precision. This is in your shooting phase. This is only on an aspect warrior unit, so not an avatar, but this lets you give the entire unit either ignores cover, lethal hits, or sustained hits 1 for their ranged weapons. But once again, you can also remove an Aspect Shrine token from the unit when you use this stratagem, and if you do that, you can instead pick 2 of those abilities. So you can get a unit with lethal and sustained hits, or sustained and ignores cover, for instance. So it is a really versatile and strong stratagem. It is going to be incredibly good on your Fire Dragons or your Dark Reapers, but even on something like your Dire Avengers, if they really need to move an enemy infantry squad that is entrenched in cover near an objective, this can get them, lethal hits and ignores cover to make them do that much more easily. Skyborn Sanctuary is up next. This is again 1 command point. This is done at the end of the fight phase, and it allows an Asayani unit from your army, so not just an aspect unit, but any Asayani unit, to embark on a friendly transport that they are wholly within 6 inches of. So if you have fought and killed an enemy unit and you are now at risk of being exposed to some shooting in the next turn, if you're going into your opponent's turn, you can just hop back into a transport and keep a unit safe from that return fire until they are ready to disembark and charge again in your following turn. So it's really useful. I love the timing on this. It's really great to let you use it either defensively to keep a unit safe, or offensively if it's done at the end of the enemy turn. You can put a unit in a transport if you need them to jet off to the other end of the board. You can use this to get them that extra movement much more easily. Finally, you also get Kane's Vengeance. This is done in your opponent's movement phase. You pick an enemy non-monster or vehicle unit that is wanting to fall back, and then you target an avatar or aspect unit in your army that was in engagement range of that unit when they do so, and it forces a desperate escape test on that enemy unit, and the testers at -1 if the enemy unit is battle shocked. So if something is in combat with your avatar and they really don't want to be there, which is understandable, you can basically say to them, you're going to have to stick it out and stay in there and probably get killed and chopped to pieces by the avatar, or you can fall back, but if you do, you're going to risk losing even more models to desperate escape. So it's a pretty all-round solid stratagem. It's great on a really scary unit like the Avatar, which is also incredibly tanky, to keep an enemy locked up and just know that they have got a really hard choice now to stay in combat with you or take that potential damage if they did want to fall back. I would say it's maybe the most niche out of the stratagems, but at one command point it's still very, very good and very much worthwhile having in your pocket. You will still likely get a good amount of use from it, especially if you are using the Avatar as this aggressive piece to just go up, get into the enemy battle lines, and charge into combat with as much as he possibly can. And that is the Aspect Host. It's really, really good in my opinion. It's one of my favorite detachments, which is why I wanted to do it first. The main rule of it is fantastic, just bringing so much more reliability to your army. The enhancements are pricey, but actually fairly good overall, I think. And then the strats are just brilliant. It really does all come together to make your aspect units, your avatar, your Phoenix Lords, your Autarchs that are leading them super fast and able to get into combat incredibly quickly, and then just devastatingly powerful when they are there or when they are shooting and putting some firepower support down the board. So I would say if you love aspect warriors and you love avatars and you want to run an army that is just this brightly colored, orange and blue and green mix of aspect units, which to me is the epitome of what an Eldar army should look like, then this will absolutely let you do that and do it very, very well. But as always, what do you think of this detachment? Which of the rules and the enhancements and stratagems do you like the most? And if you were running it, would you run full aspects and an avatar, or would you mix anything else in like guardians or transports for a bit more utility? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me, but until next time, I'll catch you later, guys.